Welcome back, my apprentice. Today, we're diving into an explainer that's going to totally demystify the ancient, deeply meditative art of bonsai. Now, if you've ever looked at one of these tiny, ancient-looking trees and thought, well, that's an impossibly expensive hobby reserved only for Zen masters, I'm here to prove that you can create your very own miniature masterpieces on a budget, right in your own backyard.
Okay, let's just bust a massive myth right out of the gate. A bonsai? It is not some specific, magic, genetic type of dwarf tree. The word literally just translates to planted in a container. We are talking about regular, full-sized woody plants like oaks, maples, or pines. They're just kept in miniature scale through very careful root restriction in shallow pots, combined with precise pruning. You're basically just guiding nature.
So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're looking at the art of the living landscape, starting your first bonsai, shaping the tree's story, mastering essential care, and finally, patience and the long journey. Let's get right into it. Part 1. The art of the living landscape, and how environmental conditions literally shape the tree trunk.
Now look at these 4 core traditional styles. Every single twist or lean of a trunk is actually interpreting a tree's natural history. We have the shokan, or formal upright, standing perfectly straight, then the moyogi, which is an informal upright with these graceful S-curves. The shokan leans sharply like it's been battered by wind on a ridge. And finally, the dramatic kengai, or cascade. By manipulating that trunk, you're telling the viewer exactly what kind of invisible, harsh environment this tree grew up in.
To put this into perspective, just think about the intense contrast between these styles. You've got the formal upright tree living in absolute peace, soaking up abundant light with zero harsh winds. But then compare that to the extreme survival of the cascade style. That dramatic downward branch reach, dropping right past the bottom of the pot, mimics a tree desperately clinging to a harsh cliff face, physically pushed down by the immense weight of winter snow or falling rocks. You aren't just styling a plant, you are sculpting its battle with the elements.
Moving on to Section 2, starting your first bonsai. We're talking affordable beginnings with seeds and cuttings.
Here's your starter checklist, and honestly, you do not need to spend a fortune to get going. You can simply gather fallen acorns locally in the autumn, or start with easy-to-grow elm cuttings. And this next part is a real game changer. Use plastic pond baskets. Instead of buying some expensive ceramic pot right away, plant your sapling in a cheap pond basket. The holes all around it allow for incredible oxygen uptake, which massively boosts root health and overall growth. Grab some basic shears and soft wire, and you're totally set.
Okay, so any convincing miniature tree needs a strong root flare, which we call an abari. This is what visually anchors that heavy trunk to the earth. To create this on a budget, just follow this simple trick. When you plant your cutting, place it directly over a flat slate or tile. This physically restricts the roots from escaping straight down. Instead, it forces them to spread radially outwards, completely prepping that root system for its eventual life in a shallow bonsai tray.
All right, Section 3, shaping the tree's story. This is where we guide branches naturally over time. Let's talk structural pruning. This is your first really bold step in transforming a basic shrub into a masterpiece. And we aren't just talking about a light trim here. This is taking a sharp pair of shears and aggressively cutting back large branches to establish the tree's primary silhouette. It's the moment you decide if your bushy elm is going to be a graceful upright tree or a dramatic windswept survivor. Once we have that structure, we refine. We use soft copper or aluminum wire to naturally guide the branch development. You just wrap the wire and manually bend those branches to mimic the environmental struggles we talked about earlier. But hey, here's a massive warning for you. You leave the wire on for a few months until the wood sets, sure, but you absolutely must monitor it closely. If that branch grows too thick, the wire will cut into the bark and leave a permanent, ugly scar. Vigilance is absolutely key here.
As you build out those branches, you're going to practice ramification. And the science behind this is just super cool. When you patiently and repeatedly clip the tips of your tree's branches, it multiplies the number of buds. Because the tree's stored energy now has to be divided among so many more growing points, it naturally shrinks the size of the leaves. That's exactly how you get a massive oak tree to produce tiny, miniature leaves that perfectly fit the scale of your bonsai.
Section 4, mastering essential bonsai care, or, the daily devotion to your living art.
So, I have to ask you, my apprentice, why are people so terrified of killing their bonsai? What do you think is the absolute #1 mistake that wipes out a beginner's tree in shallow pots? It's watering. Seriously, improper watering. Because they live in tiny pots, their root balls can dry out in a single hot afternoon.
So rule number 1, never, ever water on a strict schedule. Instead, stick your finger a ½ inch into the dirt every single day. If it feels slightly dry, water it thoroughly until it drains out the bottom. And if you're worried about keeping that root ball moist safely, try using pots designed with side holes. They allow a small reservoir of water to sit safely below, using osmosis to gently hydrate the tree without drowning it.
And here's another massive mistake beginners make: putting a rugged outdoor tree on their living room coffee table. Tough, hardy species like junipers, pines, and oaks absolutely must live outdoors. They require natural seasonal cycles, winter protection, and a cold winter dormancy to survive. If you're set on having an indoor-only bonsai, you've got to choose tropical species like ficus or jade trees that can't stand the frost and will be totally happy in the warmth of your house.
Finally, Section 5, Patience and the Long Journey. This is all about how we compress time into miniature art. Taking a tree from a simple seed to refined art is a profound, long-term artistic story. Just look at this timeline. Starting an oak from a free acorn, year 1 is literally just planting it. Year 2, you're letting that sapling grow wild for strength. By years 3 to 5, you're finally applying gentle wire to give that trunk some dynamic movement. And then, by year 15, you've achieved a refined Shohin masterpiece, a tree small enough to hold in your hands, but radiating the ancient energy of a forest giant. It's a slow, deeply rewarding meditation.
I really love this quote from the explainer's sources. You're not just growing a tree, you're growing a story. Never forget that every bend of the wire, every structurally pruned branch, and every single careful watering session is just another word in the beautiful history of survival that you are writing in partnership with nature.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to spark your own journey. Look around your neighborhood for a simple cutting or a fallen acorn. Get a cheap pond basket and just start today. What unique story of survival and environmental history will your very first tree tell the world? Go get your hands dirty, and I'll see you next time.